Hello guys, welcome to Thermomix Adventures. Lisa here. Hey look, I'm coming to you early today to show you this amazing dinner, mainly because last week I did a dinner for you, but I split it in two parts either side of my gym time and I came back really red and hot. So today I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it early. And the beautiful thing about having a Thermomix is you can either let it sit in there for a few hours or you can put it in a thermo server and keep it hot. Now this month we're doing all healthy habits for our Thermomix. We're trying to get into the swing of using our Thermomix regularly. You'll see on the downloadable that you can find on tmxingadventures.com.au. Click on that link and head over to the blog, which I've rearranged a little bit by the way. But you can see over there, there's drinks, there's snacks, which we've actually not got into yet. There's mains and there's lunchy salads kind of thing. So lots of different options depending on what you like to do. But my biggest piece of advice with habits is to start small, but also think about organization. Be organized beforehand. So let's get started on this recipe. I've actually pre-done a part of it. There is a beautiful marinade you make at the beginning of this where you put garlic, ginger. By the way, I cheated. I used garlic powder. I used ginger paste, soy sauce. It says brown sugar. I used just ordinary raw sugar. It had rice wine vinegar. By the way, if you don't have that, an easy swap is apple cider or white vinegar. Okay, and then it cooked off. There was then some corn flour in there added later and some water. Check it out. It's on cookie dough. Then what it tells you to do is to actually put the sauce, half of the sauce. It says 100 grams. I think it's a little bit, probably less than half. I've put more than half because I've done this recipe enough times to know. And some of you guys were lucky enough to have this at your demo very many years ago when we first got the meter into the Thermomix mixture. I'll talk about this later. But yes, so what I've done is I've actually got my meat marinating. I won't put that in the oven till closer to dinner time, okay? But I've got that marinating ready to go. You then have a portion of your sauce for later that's actually a dressing. And by the way, it's just divine. Like, it's one of those ones that I would actually have in the fridge all the time if I got around to it. Okay, I haven't got ahead of myself yet. We're going to talk more about that next month. So I'm not going to tell you about next month yet. But this recipe, so I've done the sauce. I'm marinating this. I will put it in the oven with about, I don't know, half an hour before dinner time, and I'm going to use my meter to actually clock my time. Now, don't let the meter stop you making this recipe. If you don't have a meter, that's okay. Cook this as per whatever Google says or the instructions on the packet. It's a pork loin, I think it is. So it's actually a beautiful piece of meat because there's no wastage on it. It's one of those ones, there's no fat to cut off. So, you know, for $10, you're getting a chunk of meat that's all meat. So it's quite good value for what it is. So anyway, it's marinating in there. Now I'm going to start this recipe at the salad step. And I'm going to show you, of course, my changes, my hints and tips to make this faster. So I'm just going to scroll down to, where is it? Here it is, somewhere here. That's the sauce. That's the sauce. Okay, keep going. It's asking me to put it in the oven. Do that later. Rice salad. That's what I want us to pick up, is it the rice salad. Now, the other reason I've done these recipes on here this month is they're using our aroma, but also they've got portions that you can separate out. Like at the moment, I'm not eating rice, but I can eat the salad or it's going to be like a cabbagey coleslaw that's cooked, and I can eat the meat. If I fed that alone to my family, they would feel like I'm starving them. They need the side of rice. So you'll notice the 4 main meals all have that approach where there's multiple parts that people can pick and choose what they like. So here we go. Hey Chris, lovely to have you on this afternoon. First things first is we're putting in some cabbage into the Thermomix. We're not using our cutter. We could use our cutter. I used my cutter to make sauerkraut the other week. It worked beautifully, but I'm just going to follow as per recipe and not make it any more complicated than it needs to be today. So let's have a look at the scales. Oh, I didn't recalibrate the scales. That's okay. So cabbage, goodness knows how much. Actually, if I put the lid on, it'll tell you how much I put in. 250, a little bit more than it asks for. I do love that with the Thermomix. You can kind of get away with, it looks like not much and it makes a lot, okay? So next up, it asks you for some Asian greens. I don't have Asian greens, so I'm just gonna leave them out. And then it asks for this to go on. What I do want to add instead, just personal preference from making this previously, other occasions, is I want to add some capsicum, which it calls for later sliced up by hand. We don't slice it by hand if we don't need to. And I like to add carrot, which I've just washed. I've not peeled it. The ends can go in. So now we're going to put the lid on, and now we're going to do what the recipe tells us to do. All right, so just You could also add in broccoli, cauliflower, your favorites, okay, whatever that might be. It's got 1 second speed 5. Now, because I've got these extra ingredients, I might need to repeat this step, and that's okay. I'll show you how. So round to speed 5. Wow, isn't that fast? I love how fast it chops. That does not get old, and you guys have heard me say that before. Oh, check that out. Oh my goodness. You know what? Because we're steaming it, I'm actually happy with that. I actually won't chop it further. If we were eating that as a coleslaw on its own, yes, I'd chop it down further. This is going to get a little bit steamed and soft, so I'm actually okay with that, surprisingly. I even surprised myself. Okay, transfer to the Vorwerk dish and set aside. So I've got my Vorwerk dish here. It's got a couple of little bits of corn husk from earlier. We're just going to put that in the dish being the base. Oh, there are a few chunks that are a bit large. Doesn't matter, it'll be fine. Okay, so into the dish. Excuse my back while I just scrape out the rest of this. And then we're going to actually layer this up. Excuse my back. All right, got too much stuff on the table today. Tell me if you know what you're having for dinner today. I'd love to know what you are having at your place for dinner, or is it still a bit of a decision to be made? So now it says to place the simmering basket on the mixing bowl lid and weigh some rice in. Now, because I don't cook right now in my kitchen, I'm in a spare room in our house, I've already pre-weighed my rice. Okay, now a tip with rice, and just in case you know this is the first time you've watched me, with your rice, you can go up to anywhere up to halfway on your simmering basket. Okay, that's 400 grams. Don't go heavier than that because rice will double in size. Doesn't matter what sort of rice, whether it's white or brown, it doesn't really matter. But you go anywhere up to halfway. Once you know what your family eats, just always do the same amount, okay? Your rice is best if you wash it, okay? Most recipes ask you to, not always, just wash it by habit, okay? Because it removes the starchiness, you'll get a nicer, fluffier rice. So wash it under the water of the tap. Now, obviously, I don't have a tap in here. My kitchen renos will have a tap in my little nook that I'm going to cook in. So what I do is I rinse it and then I put it in water in here. I've got my Thermo, you can see it there. And I just sit in there till we're ready for it. So I've already pre-done this step. Now, if you're wondering, oh, Lise, how do you know how much water to put? Because, you know, if you're just cooking for 2 of you, you're going to use a different amount of rice to us who's cooking for 6, well, 5, because I'm not going to eat it. So ordinarily they ask you to put jasmine rice into it, okay, 250 grams, but put whatever you need to. Rinse the rice. I love that they tell you to do that. And now it says to add 900 grams of water. Now, 900 grams of water is not always enough, okay? Hello, Sharon. Lovely to have you on. Thank you for tagging someone who might be interested. I love it when you guys share what I do. I'm here to help you get the most out of your Thermomix. So 900 grams of water, in my opinion, is usually not enough. Even if you've only got a smidgen of rice in the bottom, it's not enough. So how do you know how much water to put, okay? You can actually just know that when you fill it up to the top grain of rice, the very top, that's where you stop. If you can remember that every time, you will have success. So if you've only got that much rice in the bottom, just fill the water up till it gets to that top grain of rice. Not over, not under, on that top grain of rice, okay? With your 10-6, one thing to note, your basket does, if your flap's open, it lifts your basket. So just make sure your basket's sitting down. So watch as I do this. So I'm just going to pour it in. I've just got a big container of water. And I'm just looking for it to come. Here it comes. I don't know if you guys can see that well enough, but if I jiggle it, I bet you can. Can you guys see that water through it? Just to the top of the rice. That's spot on. Now, sometimes you'll find if you were just cooking rice, if you were using your Thermomix as a rice cooker only for some reason, you'll find that starchy bubbles come out the top of your machine and they can make a mess. What do? Put your simmering basket or your Vorwerk in place. All that does is it funnels the bubbles into a space. They come back, they go back down. So it's not a big deal. It just stops them bubbling, overflowing. Okay, it bubbles them up into a space. So just a little tip there. So I'm going to do that much water. It says salt. I never salt my water. I don't know whether you do. If you like salty water, go for it. We never have. Now it says to insert the simmering basket. And now it says to place the Vorwerk dish in position. Okay, so let's get on to the fun part. Who has made an omelette in the Vorwerk before? If you have, I need you to say yes in the chat. well done to you. It's one of those things that once you've done it a few times, you'll use that skill every, at least monthly. We will use it to make like a not quite fried rice, where we'll fry off our egg. When I say fry, sorry, steam off our egg in the Vorwerk. There is a beautiful omelette in the basic cookbook from TM 5 Days, where you actually make it a big omelette on top. It's quite a thick omelette. So lots of things you can do once you know how, but I'm going to show you how. So let's put the veggies on top. Just flatten them down so they get an even cook. All right. Little tip as well for the day is make a little hole in the middle. Okay. Lets that steam into that space more consistently. You'll get a better cook. It doesn't have to be a perfect hole. Okay. Just a little bit of a hole. Okay. Have I got this on properly? Yes, I do. All right. Tray. Okay. Tray sits in place. And now, what's it telling me to do? Wring out a piece of baking paper. So, what does that mean? I can hear you asking. There is a video. I love that the Thermomix has inbuilt videos when it's a bit convoluted. All you do is you rip off a piece of baking paper, okay, yay size, scrunch it, run it under the water, unscrunch it. And now we've got a pliable piece of baking paper that actually will be able to hold our omelette quite confidently. There's no holes in it. So it's going to hold it, but it's actually going to hold that form as well, rather than if you try to use baking paper as it is straight out of the container, it would just sit up really high and not let your omelette sit into it, okay? So that's what they're asking for. Now, they want you to have pre-whipped 2 eggs together. Okay, done, check, and we just pour that on. 2 eggs is actually, in theory, not much. Like when I've done this in the past with the one for the basic cookbook, I think I had 6 eggs in it. This is going to make nice little thin strips. Now you can certainly wiggle it around a little bit. I tend to not worry too much, but hey, I'll try and be a little bit pretty for you guys today. Let's put that in there. There we go. Come on. Okay, I can't make the last little bit cover. We'll just leave the last little bit. Can you guys see I've got a little hole over there? It's just good, not quite enough. Probably could have whipped it a bit better too. Can you see the white in it? Let's not get hung up on that sort of stuff, okay? It'll be amazing anyway. On with this. By the way, you can also use that same method with sunny side up eggs, where you crack your eggs straight on and steam them straight on like that as well. It's really yummy. All right, next. And the baking paper trick is awesome if you ever don't have a dish to reheat it and you want to reheat over steam. I'll say that again because I know you're all going, huh? So when we were in our caravan, we would often do dinner, like our leftover curries, and they might have been sitting in a container that couldn't go in the Vorwerk. So often I'd do it in a Pyrex dish, and you can just lift that straight in. But say I had something that it was a plasticky type container, you can actually lay this in the dish underneath and put your reheatable, your leftover risotto, your leftover pasta, your leftover curry into it, and then cook your rice while steaming and reheating your beautiful leftovers. Otherwise, you could just plonk your Pyrex dish in, and as long as there's air holes still available, it will cook your rice and reheat your leftovers at the same time. So there you go. Trying to think if I've got a video for you guys. I probably do. I'll have to go back and try and find it. Let me know if you'd like that. Secure the Vorwerk lid. And now it's got 13 minutes Vorwerk speed 2, and we literally give it a turn. Now, moving on from this step in the recipe, it asks you to set aside, remove the simmering basket, transfer cooked veggies, discard the cooking liquid. And it tells you to then literally assemble it. Now, 15 minutes is not long enough for my brown rice. Okay, so I am actually going to push my house key. How do I get out of this? Let's go house. There we go. And I'm going to put onto this, I need 20 minutes. Okay, probably 25. However, because I'm going to let mine sit here while I go to the gym and come home and then put this on to cook for half an hour and then it'll come all together, mine sitting there for that extra time will just cook that rice perfectly fine. But if you want to serve it up straight away, put 25 minutes on. Now, 25 minutes will slightly probably take your veggies a little far. Your egg, it doesn't matter, okay? I find because we're cooking with steam, you've got quite a bit of leeway and you don't particularly overcook things because you're cooking with a wet heat, not a drying heat. So the egg will be perfectly fine. It might stand up a little bit on its own. Sometimes they get like bubbles in them and they stand up, but that's perfectly fine. And what's going to happen at the end, when this is all done, the photo you will see later on tonight, if you go over and check out YouTube, you'll see it at the beginning and the end, will be the rice in the bottom of, the rice, then the beautiful cabbage mix. Then you'll see I've got some shoots. What are they called? Bean shoots, is that what they're called? And then you'll have the sliced up pork, and then you'll have the egg omelette. And then you'll have your dressing, this bit here, the leftover, trickled over the top. So that is how you assemble it. Now this is a beautiful one for entertaining. It goes quite a long way because you've got the capacity for more veggies. You've got the capacity for, depending on how much rice you put in yours, you might have the capacity for more rice in there. So it actually is a meal that can go quite a long way. And if you add some chopped up Asian greens at the end, you've boosted it out even further. Okay, so give this recipe a go. If you don't want to make it for a crowd, you don't have to. Make it with the amount of rice you would eat. If you don't want to eat all of your meat in one go, chop it in half and freeze the rest. Okay, if you don't want to use that much cabbage, don't use that much cabbage. If you don't like cabbage, skip it all together. Make it a broccoli mix or whatever your preference is, okay? This is one of those recipes that you can kind of take, pick and choose the bits you like to make it your own and make it the size you like as well. But otherwise, guys, that's it from me today. Have a fantastic afternoon. If I can help you with anything regarding your Thermomix, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you're making. I'd love to hear if you've got challenges. If something's not working, I love to hear those as well, okay? Don't be a stranger. And if I can help any loved one of yours get a Thermomix on the bench, I would love to help them get one and then get the very most out of it. But otherwise, thanks for joining me today. Thanks to those of you on today. It's been lovely to have you on and, saying hi. It's nice to know there's people who are watching and enjoying these videos. But I'll see you tomorrow. I think I'm coming back for a juice tomorrow. I think we're going to do the beautiful mango strawberry juice. I think will be next up before we move on next week to our salads and our snacks. So can you believe we're halfway through February already? Oh my goodness. Anyway, guys, take care and I shall see you tomorrow for some more Thermomixing. Bye for now.